Good day, everyone. Eric Olsen from Helps, law firm for seniors and disabled persons. Welcome to our YouTube channel today. My name is Eric, attorney for 46 years, the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. And we protect seniors from collector harassment. And we also educate them how they can maintain their financial independence. And glad to have you on our channel today. The title today is Seniors Drowning in Debt. Uh, uh, we're getting calls, whatever. What does I put on there? Is you don't have to deal with. It can stop the phone from ringing. That's right. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, back in 1978, there was a law passed called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It provides, among other things, that if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call you or send demand letters anymore. They have to deal with the attorney. Okay. And it's called a cease and desist letter. That's what we send to debt collectors for people that enroll in Helps. They find out about us. If they want our help, they enroll. We don't turn anyone away that qualifies for our help. We send a cease and desist letter out. They leave them alone. Okay, the phone stops ringing. So this person called us from New York, or they sent this email and they said, I'm a retired New York State teacher with a New York pension. They have over 25,000 in credit card debt that I'm currently delinquent on. And he says, or he or she says, the phone never stops ringing. Well, we can solve that problem. That's what we do. That's our main mission, is to stop you being bothered by collectors. That's not all we do. We educate our seniors so they can maintain their financial independence. It's one reason we have this YouTube channel, so that you can ask questions. Please tell me that you can hear me clearly. I've got the microphone right in front of my mouth, and I hope you can hear me, because I don't want people complaining that they can't hear me. Okay? And then I'll answer your questions if you put them in the chat feature. Kat asks, signatory on a bank, if you do that procedure, will that affect my case with you that creditors can't go after that? No. Financial power of attorney versus signatory, which is better? Kind of the same thing. Signatory is that person is just allowed to deal with your bank account. Okay, that you own the money in the bank account, but someone else can sign for your checks. They don't own the account, but they can sign and deal with your checking account only. With the power of attorney, they may have broader powers. A general power of attorney, they may be able to do anything. Okay? So, what's better? It just depends on your circumstance. A power of attorney may be more difficult for them to deal with your checking account, whereas if they're a signatory, it's kind of automatic. Where a power of attorney, they can do more things, but bank may have different requirements if they're going to try to deal with your checking account. Okay? So it's just they have different functions. Okay? And you also asked that, Kat also asked, I was told that federal laws have changed with financial power of attorneys, that banks won't accept them. Never heard of that. I can't imagine that would be the case. Our whole financial system would go into chaos if all of a sudden we couldn't have someone act on our behalf on financial matters. There's a lot of seniors that need someone to help them, and a lot of people otherwise that need someone to help them. And so they give someone else power financially to act as their attorney to undergo or entertain or conduct a financial transaction. Okay. Now there's different types of power of attorneys. There's what's called a limited power of attorney that allows you to do one specific thing, and then there's a general power of attorney that allows you to do just about anything to help someone. Okay? So thanks for your questions, and put more in the chat feature. I'll be glad to take care of them. Mrs. Q says, Miss H says, I want to know, before help started in 2012, what did seniors do before filing bankruptcy? I remember a veteran had a certificate saying no one could take his money. That was before 2012. Well, that's why Helps was started. There wasn't really a whole lot they could do. I mean, creditors could call and make their lives miserable. They could send a cease and desist letter out on their own. A lot of them didn't know how to do that or didn't want to do that. A lot of them just dealt with the problem, or some of them, if they didn't know what their rights were before helps was around, they may have made arrangements to pay a debt they didn't need to pay. Okay, so before help started, I was doing bankruptcies and lots of them. And seniors would come in and I'd tell them you don't need to file bankruptcy, but I knew when I sent them home that creditors were going to call them that night. And so that really weighed on me, and so we figured out, is there a way we can do something to be able to help seniors so they don't have to deal with this collector harassment? And that's how helps came to be. Okay? And it relies on that law that was passed in 1978, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So, which provided, if you're a federal law applicable in all 50 states, provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors have to communicate with the attorney, not you. And that's the reason here it helps. We get calls all day long from debt collectors. Do you represent this person? Do you represent that person? Can we make arrangements for them to pay? And the answer we give them is, well, they're on Social Security. They can't afford to pay. I'm sorry, we can't do that. We don't want to do that. Okay, we don't settle debts for people, or we don't arrange for debts to be paid. Our clients, when they turn a creditor off to us that they don't want to deal with, we send a cease and desist letter, and you don't have to worry about paying it. That's the end of it. Okay. So this person contacts us from Florida, and they say, I'm a 70-year-old male. I cannot work any longer. I was served to appear in court by the credit card company. I can't even afford an attorney because I'm on Social Security only. I'm so depressed and have a lot of anxiety because because of the collector is trying to sue me in court. You're not going to need to be depressed. And I'll read the rest of this and then explain why you're going to be okay. And that includes you listening to me. I don't even know what to do. If I had the money, I will most definitely will pay them. I've said that before. Our clients, if they were able to pay the debt, most of them would choose to pay the debt, but they simply can't afford to. Okay. I don't know what to do. If I had the money, I almost, okay. But I can't even afford to buy food. Please see if you can help me. They are not the only ones that I owe money. I feel worthless and embarrassed. I'm on Social Security income only. My court date is June 4th, and I don't know what to do. Please try to help me. Well, you can see why helps is called helps. We help people. So helps. Yeah. Because so many of these messages we get from people say, can you help me? And the answer is yeah. So we're going to call this guy back. He's younger than me, but he gets Social Security, and obviously he's strapped with debt, and he feels he's been sued, and he thinks he has to go to court when he doesn't have to. When one of our clients gets sued, we send a letter to the debt collector that sued you, the attorney. We let them know, hey, our client's income is only Social Security and maybe a pension, and they can't afford to pay it. We understand you're going to get a judgment. Don't touch their bank account. They can't. Remember what I've talked about? Twice the amount of your federal benefit, like your Social Security, deposit into a bank account, is twice the amount you get each month, is automatically protected by your bank from garnishment, regardless of what other funds are in there or where they came from. So your bank is protected. And then now you can use that money that we're using to pay debt to buy food and take care of other things, okay, your basic needs. You don't need to feel worthless or embarrassed. Virtually half of seniors have incomes within 200% of the poverty line, and many of them owe debt they can't afford to pay. You're not alone if you have these problems. There's millions of seniors with the same problem. That's why we ask our clients and others to share what helps does with others. As far as I know, we're the only law firm in the nation that does what we do, which is to protect seniors from collector harassment and to educate them how they can maintain their financial independence. We don't don't give legal advice. We give legal information because the information we give is really basic stuff that your income is protected. But and we also protect you from collector harassment under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. We don't represent people in court. We simply send a letter to your people you owe money to and let them know you can't afford to pay it. And under that federal law, they're to communicate with us, not you. So they leave you alone. Now, if it's an original creditor, they could still send you a letter or a bill, and technically they could still call you. But we find that when we send a cease and desist letter to an original creditor, they're going to stop calling you. They might continue to send you a bill. You don't need to worry. You don't need to pay it. You're going to be okay. Okay? Yeah, it hurts my heart too when I hear that someone can't afford food and medicine. And we live in a really blessed country. There's a lot of help for people that are poor or have lower incomes. We have, SNAP benefits, used to be called food stamps. There's different other Meals on Wheels. There's different other charities that will, food banks that will help people, churches that help people. We're really blessed that way. And as far as housing is concerned, we do have what's called Section 8 housing, which is subsidized housing. That's not going to go anywhere. Hopefully it gets funded more. Um, Unfortunately, there's this demand exceeds the supply. Um, but that's the importance of family. Families help each other out and join together to help a family member that's in need. Okay. So yeah, we're going to help this guy out from Florida. That's feels worthless. You don't need to feel worthless or embarrassed. I mean, uh, you just said if you had the money, you would pay it. Okay. So these things can happen to any of us. Therefore, the grace of God go any of us. Any of us can have these problems. Okay. There's not very few exceptions, and it's life. But you're going to be fine. Okay. So this person contacts us from Colorado, it looks like, and he says, "Hello, I'm contacting you on behalf of my dad." That's what he says, um, which is nice. I love it when kids contact us about their parents. I found out recently that he had a couple of collectors trying to collect from him. His English is limited, but says the debt isn't his, so he's ignored them. It's got to the point now where the collectors are suing him, and because he's ignoring them, they may get a default judgment against him. My question is, can his income be garnished? His only source of income is Social Security and OPM, retirement. What's OPM? Office of Personnel Management. That's a federal retirement. And because it's a federal retirement, it's protected. All pensions are protected, but because it's a federal retirement, twice the amount of your federal benefits, which would be your Social Security in his case, and his federal retirement, deposited in his bank each month, is protected automatically from garnishment by his bank without him having to do anything. Okay? Um, oh, he worked with the post office. Yeah, post office workers. And so is railroad workers and federal workers. Okay? Um, he has no other assets or retirement income, but does have a little bit of money saved up in his checking or savings, all from his retirement income mentioned above. Are the retirement incomes safe from judgment? What about his savings? Well, okay. Um, when I talk about money being protected, twice the amount you get each month, I'm talking about automatic protections that's done by your bank without you doing anything. So, if you got 2,000 in federal retirement income, Social Security and whatever, federal retirement times two would be 4,000 is protected. If you had more than that or money in another account that came from a federal source, but it wasn't deposited there directly, you transferred it then. Yeah, then if someone sued you and did get a judgment, they could garnish that money you could file what's called a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption and be able to show the court that the money came from a federal source, and the court would order that to be released. But you can prevent that problem by just making sure you have one account only, and that's the account to which Social Security is deposited or your federal benefit is deposited. And just keep it less than that. Now, you don't even need to worry about this unless someone sued you and they got a judgment. And, if they sue you, they can't take your money right then. They'd have to get a judgment, and that would take probably several months before that would happen. Okay, so you have plenty of time to sort out your banking situation so that your money goes into one account. Like I told one person today, they had some money they'd saved up, and there was a lawsuit, and they were helps clients, and I told them, I said, just, you can either keep it cash, or you can, put it in have one of your kids hold it for you in their bank account, or you can get a cashier's check or money order. You can, no one could garnish that. So, there's other ways to protect that excess money. Okay. Okay, this person contacts us from North Carolina, and they say, I need information for my brother who is facing financial trouble. He was diagnosed in April with serious disease. It's going to end his life at some point here. Before that, his health was interfering with his ability to work. His life has been spent with time in and out of the hospitals and a lot of procedures to keep him alive. He's been forced to use his credit cards to pay the debt. He's a recent, he had a transplant and he's in the early stages of recovering from that. His future outlook for work is very dim. 71 years old. What I would like to accomplish is see if there's any way that he can get some help, relief from the debt. Sure, stop paying the debt. Yeah, his income is Social Security or pension. It's going to be protected. He doesn't need to pay the credit cards anymore. And, if he can't pay the medical bills, he can get on Medicaid. So, no, he doesn't need to worry. Okay? And we're going to call and tell him that. So this person contacts us from Tennessee. This is a note from my paralegals that was on a person they talked to. She helped her grandson lease a vehicle. Hold on here, I need to get my phone muted. She helped her grandson lease a vehicle, and she's got other debts as well. And when they repossessed the lease vehicle, and she owes money from the lease. It's called a deficiency. And she wanted to know how HELPS works. And she asked, is HELPS bankruptcy? No, we're not bankruptcy. No, our clients don't need to file bankruptcy. A lot of them, they can't afford bankruptcy. It's not necessary. If your income is Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefits, it's protected. We stop collectors from bothering you. They can sue you till they're blue in the face. They can't collect from you. You don't need to file bankruptcy. You can sometimes. Sometimes bankruptcy is like getting to a briar patch. It can cause you problems, and we have videos that talk about that. But and apparently the daughter came in on the phone. This is the notes from one of our paralegals. Daughter came in on the phone when I was on the call, and I could tell there was some apprehension. I offered to send them our information so they can review together, encourage them only do what is comfortable. We are here just to help if needed. They will review and will call back if they would like to enroll. We'll be here. So lo and behold, 2 days ago they called back. Spoke to one of our attorneys, Kristen, and Kristen always says this. She says, Very sweet lady. Kristen, if you're a if you're a woman and you call helps and talk to Kristen, she's always going to call you very sweet. And this person called to enroll, but there was very little information, so I had to complete intake and read her what we do. Okay. Um, and she needed to stop some automatic payments. We told her how to do that. Okay. Because she wasn't going to pay this debt anymore. She needed to stop the automatic payments. Um, she wants to keep paying her credit union, so she's going to keep paying them. Um, Let her know if she ever can't pay it, we can discuss about changing from the credit union to a bank. And it says here, uh, extremely soft-spoken and worried. And she said, I tried to assure her. That's what we do. We spend a lot of time here at Helps assuring seniors are going to be okay. That's why we always tell you, you can always call us if you have a question or if you're worried or concerned, no matter how often. If you're a Helps client, you can call us. I don't care. You can call every day if you want. I talk to people all the time. That's why Helps was founded, so that seniors would always be able to have someone to call. You're not going to get charged when you call. You pay them. Those seniors that enroll in Helps they pay a modest, very modest, low monthly fee, which allows you to call us whenever you want. We don't want you to worry. Okay? So this person contacts us from Michigan. Says that her husband recently passed away and she's unable to pay her credit card debt. So, yeah, if you're married and you're on Social Security, when your spouse passes away, you get the higher of the two Social Securities. But because of that, one of the Social Securities is going to go away. So often it does create a problem if you needed both Social Securities to keep up with the debt. And now a spouse passed away and you're only getting one of the Social Securities. Yeah, it can be a problem. He said she is hoping that she does not have to pay her credit card. She doesn't. She can give that to us. And it says, does she have to pay her hospital bill? No, don't have to pay the hospital bill. Okay? And they can't, if it's a public hospital, they can't deny you service in the future. And they won't. A lot of times you can apply for the hospital they have programs to get the fee waived if you're poor or lower income. But yeah, the husband passed away. She doesn't have to pay his debt, and she doesn't have to pay her debt. She's going to be fine. So we're going to tell her. So this guy calls us from Pennsylvania. And they say, stressed out by a pending lawsuit. Vietnam veteran got sued. She was in debt relief or debt management program. So I haven't mentioned that yet today. If you're in debt management or debt settlement company, the question I'd ask you is, when you enrolled with them, did they tell you, by the way, you don't really need our help because all your income is protected. No one can touch your Social Security. If they didn't tell you that, they didn't give you the complete truth, and you don't have to remain with them. You can stop. Why didn't they tell you that? If they would have told you that, you would have realized you didn't need their help and you would have enrolled with them. Then they want to make money off of you. Okay. Apparently, she was with Freedom Debt Relief. It's one of the big ones. It's for profit, and they don't tell seniors that their income is protected. No, they don't. And that, in my opinion, that's nothing but fraud. If you don't tell a senior their income is protected, you're withholding critical financial information that someone needs to make a decision for your own personal financial benefit. That's what they do. She was paying $500 a month, and it says she knows it was a waste of time and money. When a senior income changes, will helps adjust the fee so they can keep affording the cost. My income may be changing soon. No, we don't do that. If you enroll, the fee depends on the income. The most a person would pay normally would be $40 for 24 months, $20 for 24 months, free thereafter, or $30 for 24 months, $15 for 24 months, free thereafter, or $15 for 24 months, um, um, 30 or $20 for 24 months, and then $10 per month thereafter. But if your income went up, no. After that, if you got some, we don't ask you to pay more. So this person contacts us from California. We are uh, we are not behind with payments, but my husband and I have medical issues. I have eye surgery coming up, and my spouse is going to have another type of surgery. So I see a lot of expenses coming up, and we can't keep up anymore. And they gave a number, and we're going to call them back. Um, so when I share these things on notes, you got to realize if that sounds like you, it's probably not you. A lot of people have the exact same problems. They have the same problems. And I always change things a little bit. Um, so it says they're not behind in their payments, but they got these medical issues, and they can see they're not going to be able to pay it. So it doesn't matter where you are. If we have 5 people contact helps, maybe 1 is being sued, 3 or 4 are behind and getting creditor harassed by creditors, and then maybe 1 out of 5 is completely current. You've heard me say that before. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're currently current on everything, you don't have to wait till you're getting calls from debt collectors to enroll in helps. You can enroll in helps right then. Call us on the phone. When you call us, we're going to ask you some basic questions about your financial situation. And then we're going to read you what we do. And if you want to enroll then, you can, or you can call back later with questions. There's never any pressure to enroll in helps. We don't make enough money to pressure anyone. That's not what we're into. We're not in here to pressure you. We're here to help you. Okay? We don't want to pressure anyone. No. Although I will talk to some people sometime, and obviously they really need us. And I'll tell them that. I'll say, you really need this. And I'll say, while you're making this decision, maybe you should stop paying the debt in the interim, because if you keep paying the debt and then you decide to enroll 6 months from now, then the money you pay between now and 6 months in the future kind of went in the garbage can. You didn't need to do that. So sometimes it's better to make a decision earlier than later. Okay? Oh, if your income goes down, yes, then you can call us and we can adjust the fees. You bet. If that's what you're, oh, I didn't read that. I'm glad I saw this other one made this comment. Yeah, if your fees, if your income's going down, you bet we'll adjust the fees. We make it work for people. No, I don't want to. No, you bet. Call us. Jimmy's right. Yeah, I didn't read that. I'm sorry, I didn't see that second comment that it was going down. I thought you were talking that if your income goes up, are we going to charge more? No, but if it goes down, yeah, we will charge less. Okay, we'll try to make it work. No, we don't like to drop. We don't want to drop people from helps. You know, occasionally people, when you enroll in helps, you can quit at any time you want. I tell most of our clients don't want to quit because they don't want to deal with the collectors. But those that do quit, a significant portion, a significant percentage, I don't know if it's the majority, but it could be, call us back later and want to re-enroll. And we'll do that for you. We'll re-enroll people. We just start right up where the payment began, where it was left off at. And we're not going to yell at you. But most people want to remain with helps. And if there's a problem for a particular month, you can call us and let us know. We can defer it for a month. And we want to make it work for you. Okay. Okay, this person that called us from California, they called back and then they said they have credit card debt and unsecured loans. They're going to have some future medical expenses, like I mentioned. She's current on the credit cards and a month ahead on the personal, whatever that is. Do I have to go to court if I'm sued? No. No, when it helps clients get sued, you get us a copy of the lawsuit. Usually we need the first 3 or 4 pages. We send a letter to the attorney, tell them that your income is Social Security or pension, whatever, is protected. You can't afford to pay the debt and you're not going to go to court. We understand they're going to get a default judgment. Remind them not to touch your bank account. They can't anyway, like I earlier explained. And then we're going to call you, explain why you don't need to go to court, why you don't need to worry. We'll send you emails with articles and videos explaining why you're going to be okay. We discussed with this person how their vehicle was protected, and we emailed them some emails about different topics that they were concerned about. Okay, this one calls us from Oregon. I have a student loan for $33,000 from my son's education. I've paid 107% of the original amount. After the COVID pause came off, my payment came through at $1,500 a month. I live on Social Security of $1,300. There's no way I can pay this amount, obviously. I've spoken to them, and there's much more on this. I won't go into here. Honestly, I have been waiting for them to garnish my Social Security because it would be less now. But I'm wondering if they can even do that. Your insight would be appreciated. And okay. I just did a video last night with Jeff Hoyt on senior living about student loans that you can listen to. It'll probably come up sometime in the next couple of weeks. But if your only income is Social Security, you should be able to qualify for an income-driven repayment plan and not have to pay anything on the student loan. So you're not going to need to worry about it. We'll explain this first and why they don't need to worry. It's still kind of a convoluted and complicated issue to get on a zero payments on income-driven repayment plan for student loans. But they have improved the website to apply for that. So we'll have to see how it goes. They just started collecting on student loans on May 5th, a week ago. A little bit over a week ago. There's over 3.5 million seniors have student loans that are in default. Most of them are in default, or they're behind. They can send a letter telling you that they're going to offset 15% of Social Security after 60 days. It gives you time to either apply for a income-driven repayment plan or contest it or ask for some other stuff. There's ways to delay that or stop it, pay zero. We have emails that explain that. I just talked to a guy this morning who was worried about a student loan He said it was 50 years old. And I asked him, I said, have you heard anything from them? And he said, no, I haven't heard anything. I said, don't do anything. If you get something in the mail, then call us and we'll talk about it. You don't you don't kick a sleeping dog. That student loan is so old. For some reason, it may have gone into limbo somewhere, into outer space. We don't want to have someone look at the file and try to bring it back up. Okay. This person contacts us, has credit card debt, and is finally going to release. Husband is working and is going to be retiring at the end of the month. It's going to be a volunteer. And they live where they work. They're allowed to live in one of the houses where they work, and so they're going to have to move. And it looks like about a year and a half. So they're going to have free rent for the next year and a half. He's going to be receiving, when he gets Social Security, when he retires, coming up here, he's going to get $1,500 a month. He's got $50,000 in retirement income otherwise, and he hasn't decided how much he's going to draw each month. They don't know if they will take a lump sum and invest it into property. They're just going to make some decisions on what to do. She says she participates in craft fairs and wants to know if the proceeds would be protected. Well, absolutely yes. I mean, you're self-employed. You know, if someone sued and got a judgment, they'd have no way of collecting the money from your craft fair at all. They'd have to file a writ of garnishment. If you sold a trinket, they'd have to file a writ of garnishment and serve that to the person just as they were paying you at the booth. So that there's no way for them to collect on that kind of thing. So they're going to be fine. We'll help them so they don't need to deal with creditors. So this person contacts us. This is a note from one of the YouTube videos. I think it's probably from Senior Living by the looks of it. And he says, Eric, you've said several times it's hard for a collector to find your new bank account. But if they ask you under oath from a debtor's exam or information interrogatory, then do you have to tell them? And my answer, I typed in, I said, of course. You have to tell them if you're under oath, and you have to tell the truth. But it is extremely rare that they would ever do a debtor's exam, because we don't even, like I explained yesterday, I don't even like to talk about it because it's so rare, and it's nothing to be scared about. And then I said, and what does it matter if the income's protected? Okay, so if you keep the balance in your bank account less than twice the amount of your federal benefit, it's unlikely you'd be garnished. But if they happen to know where it is and they did garnish it, your bank's going to protect that automatically without you having to do anything. Now, if you happen to have more than that in there, like I explained, it's still protected. You have to file some paperwork to get it released. We help people do that when it happens. It doesn't happen very often because most of our clients just keep less than twice the amount of their Social Security in their bank account. And they always tell me, no problem with that, Eric. It's never more than twice the amount. As soon as it hits, it's gone. Okay? Is a pension that is another person asked, is a pension that's deposited into your bank account safe once it's deposited in the account? Well, it's safe before it's deposited if what the federal benefit is times 2, that amount is protected. Okay? Looks like I answered that question too. This person writes in, they says, I gave back a vehicle. In other words, they surrendered a vehicle. They owed money on it. They couldn't afford it anymore. Initially, the finance company sent me a letter indicating I need to pay the difference between what was owed and what they were able to sell the car for at auction. It's called a deficiency. They sent a letter asking that you pay the deficiency. The deficiency demand, deficiency letter. Okay. It was approximately $10,000. I never sent them any money. Then about a year ago, I got a letter saying that $10,000 was forgiven. Of course, I felt relieved until I received a tax form indicating that I had to claim that $10,000 on my taxes. Well, I don't think you got a letter saying it was forgiven. They probably sent you a letter saying that it was written off. That doesn't mean it was forgiven. That's kind of an internal thing with the lender, saying that they're not actively collecting it. They're going to let someone else actively collect it. And then they're required, if it's over $600, to send what's called a 1099-C to the IRS, letting the IRS know that you made a loan, you didn't pay it, and you owe this amount of money, and therefore it should be imputed to you as taxes. So he's worried that he's going to owe taxes. He says, as a senior on Social Security, I'm still working. There's a tax bracket I try to stay within. Having to add the extra $10,000 on my income for 2023 put me in a tax bracket that requires me to pay more taxes. For the first time in my life, I owe a big chunk of money to the IRS in the state I was living in. So let me talk about that. Talk about 1099-Cs for a minute. If you get a 1099-C, and you don't file tax returns, you probably don't need to worry about it. The IRS isn't going to do anything because they can see from the computer your only income is Social Security. But if you're required to file tax returns, yeah, you could be required to file, include that money in your tax return. But one thing you need to know is that if your debts exceed your assets, maybe you got $50,000 in credit card debt, and you got an old car and nothing else, you're insolvent, which means your debts exceed your assets. You can file a form called 982 with the tax return. You check off the second box, and which says you're insolvent, which means there's no tax. When I was doing bankruptcy, a lot of times people come into me and they say they owe taxes, and I learned that the person who preparing their taxes didn't know anything about Form 982. So, but let's say you did owe a little bit of taxes. Well, if your income with modest means for a senior, you probably qualify for currently not collectible status with the IRS. We talk to people about do that and how they can do that. So we don't see a problem with our clients owing taxes because they don't pay debt. Just doesn't. I mean, it happens, but really, really rarely. I can't remember the last time I saw it happening, to tell you the truth. So in other words, a lot of people, they just worry about it to the extent that they agree to pay it when they don't have to pay it. Call us if you got a question. This person comes in. The consumer law attorney I listened to on YouTube said they have up to 3 years to send a 1099-C unless they're being sent. Yeah, I don't see very many people calling us and complaining about it. Yeah, I don't know about the 3-year requirement. If we're sufficiently low income to not need to file federal taxes, do we still need to file state and local tax returns? That I guess that depends on your state law. Usually if you're not required to file federal taxes, you're not required to file state taxes, but There may be some exceptions. Okay. The bottom line is, let's say you owed some money for a state or local tax. Now, we're not talking property taxes here, but if your only income Social Security uh, or a pension, it's protected from a state tax collector. So if you owed taxes to a state, you wouldn't have to pay it. State tax collector is just like a credit card company. They cannot garnish your your bank account is protected. Twice the amount is protected from a state tax collector. Your Social Security and your pension is protected from a state tax collector. You don't have to pay it. Okay? So sometimes there's two ways to skin a cat to solve a problem. Okay, maybe I shouldn't talk about that because I know a lot of you like cats, so I didn't mean it that way. Assuming you owe the debt, and I love cats, uh, and they would get a judgment. Oh no, here's one. If I don't show up in credit card debt civil court case after being served, what would the consequences be? You guys are great. P.S. I'm in Florida living on Social Security only. And my answer, this is assuming that you owe the debt, they would get a judgment. Your Social Security and other retirement income is protected. We have lots of videos on our YouTube page that talk about this. So then there are really no consequences. They can't collect from you. Your income's protected. Now in Florida, they have a form. If they get a judgment, a creditor could send you what's called a fact information sheet that asks a bunch of questions. But it never tells a senior, by the way, your income is protected. So if you read that, you might be scared thinking you have to call and make arrangements to make payments, which you don't have to. We help people with that form. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it can be intimidating. It's kind of a lousy form. And then, other state laws, there are procedures for collection that they implement sometimes that they use. That's one reason helps us here to educate people about, you know, these forms and why they don't need to worry about a lot of them, what they can do. Okay. Yeah. So here's one. More than one way to skin a cat refers to skinning catfish, not little fluffy. I've never thought about that, Joyce. Maybe you're right. More than one way to skin a catfish. That I've all my whole entire life, I've thought about it as skinning an actual physical kitty cat. Maybe it's because when I was a boy I used to trap, but it probably makes more sense that we're talking about a catfish. Um, but it doesn't say more way to skin a cat. It doesn't say more way to skin a catfish. It says cat. So anyway, let's go on. Um, this person contacts us and they're staying with family in Illinois because they're getting surgery. But they have a home in Texas. They're going to be gone for 2 months. And the person that added her grandson onto the home is a joint owner in Texas. So that when she dies, the home will automatically go to her grandson. She's going to move back to Texas. She doesn't have to worry about being out of the state for a couple months. She can roll in helps, give us her debts, and she's not going to have to worry about any of her being harassed by any of these creditors. So is anyone else having a problem with the sound? Okay, person calls us from Tennessee. Here we go. Husband is very ill and has accumulated lots of medical bills. They used to make, he was a long haul truck driver and they used to make 250 to 300,000 a year. So now it's very hard for them. They don't have that income anymore. Their income now is Social Security, small pension, and a little bit in part-time wages. Husband's been sued, and there's a court date coming up here in a month or so. They have equity in their home, quite a bit of equity in their home. And son lives next to them. We discussed about, maybe adding the son's name to the home with them so he would own it with them with rights of survivorship. They're going to discuss that with a local attorney and see if they want to do that. Probably could do that. It means if someone sued and got a judgment against them, it could be a lien on the home, but they're not going to take the home, and when they pass on, the home would automatically go to their son without the debt having to be paid. They have a little bit of money in the savings account, but they're going to get rid of that because they owe money to their son for doing some work. They've signed up with a debt management company has been paying them $1,300 a month, and they can't they can't do it anymore. They've been using their savings to pay that, which was probably a mistake. I've talked about that before. Um, we talked about how their bank account could be protected in the event of a lawsuit, a judgment. And they asked, do I have to go to court? What happens when a helps client is sued? And we went over that with them. And we talked about how their personal property is essentially going to be protected. It's not going to be at risk. The form for them to file. They'll go over everything and call back if questions if they want to enroll. And they called again in April. And then again in May. We updated the information in May. It says they're quite nervous because of the pending lawsuit. They're canceling with the debt consolidation company. And it looks like I don't know if they enrolled yet, but they can enroll and we're going to take care of them. They don't need to worry. Time is flying. Like once again. This person called us and being harassed for a dental bill from last year that he was told both by the insurance and dental office it was being covered by insurance. However, it keeps getting inundated with bills on the dental bill. They keep giving him the runaround. He's fed up with being told it's taken care of and not taken care of. We enrolled him in helps. He gets less than $800 a month. He's on SSI. And it's not going to cost anything for us to help him. We're going to send him a cease and desist letter and let the dentist worry about getting paid from the insurance. And if he doesn't get paid by the insurance, he's not going to get paid. Guy can't pay him. He doesn't have enough money. He says he has a long history of homelessness. and some other struggles. So we're going to take care of them. So I've run out of my questions for today, and I don't see any more questions here from you guys. So I'm going to say goodbye. If this is your first time listening to us and you have any questions, you can always call us. Toll free 855-435-7787. And we'll go over your situation. We don't turn anyone away that qualifies for our help. But we don't want, our most important message is your income's protected. You can be protected from collector harassment, and we can answer questions about other areas that you're concerned about for your situation. We don't want you to worry. And if this isn't for you, we always ask our clients, our people, to share what Helps does with